I know I'm kind of late to the game because sourdough has been a huge thing in the pandemic, especially with the yeast and the bread flour being out at the beginning. But I got a nice new mature one from, or a new mature sourdough starter from a neighbor. And so I decided to start making actual loaves because before, with the sourdough starter that I had to take out, I made some scones, I made some other things that was not like an actual sourdough loaf, but I found a no-knead sourdough recipe. I looked at a few different sites, but I kind of came up with this one, and it's really good, and my family likes it, and so we've been making it every few days now. And I don't have a Dutch oven, but it still works because I use a cast iron and then I top it with a cookie sheet. So we're just hacking it here to make it like a Dutch oven, but this one did work and it's delicious. So let me show you how I make it.
First, we'll mix the dry ingredients. So here we're going to need a total of 520 grams of flour. And so I already have that. I did half and half of wheat flour and bread flour. To this, we are adding flaxseed because you all know how I like flaxseed and the health benefits. We're also adding salt. So a teaspoon of that. I try to salt it less, so I'm doing a teaspoon of salt and then a heaping tablespoon of chia seeds. Because again, you all know how I love those chia seeds. And we're also adding sesame seeds. And you can really add whatever you want into here. So I am choosing these types of seeds, but you can choose other seeds, no seeds, different seasonings, whatever you want. And I'll add in some turmeric as well. Just a little bit to go in there. And we'll just mix it up with a fork. We'll just give it a nice stir to mix it all up before we add the wet ingredients in. So here are the wet ingredients. We're going to do 385 grams of water, which I already have, as you can see on the scale. And then we're going to add 90 grams of the sourdough starter. It's about equivalent to 1 3/4 cup water and 1/4 cup of the sourdough starter. But if you're starting out, I recommend the scale. It's a lot more accurate for both dry and wet ingredients. But I'm starting to get the hang of it, so we can do a little more freestyle going forward. But here we go. We are going to just mix it, stir it until it's kind of cloudy and mixed together because we don't want it to all be separate. We want it to be mixed together before we put it into the dry. And then let's just pour it in. And we're just going to pour it all in, and then really I just use that fork to mix it all together to get it to combine. So let's take that fork and just mix it together, and we just want to get it to the point where it's all combined into one big lump, and we don't need to get it to any specific state other than making sure it comes together. And then we'll do 3 stretches, but otherwise no kneading and beating it around in the dough. So it is pretty easy. But let's just get it all combined. Okay, I think we're about there. This looks pretty good to me. It looks like one big lump, and we will just let it rest for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back to do our first stretch. Let's cover it up. It's been 15 minutes since we first kneaded it together, so we're going to do the first stretch. There's going to be 3 total. The first one, you're just going to pull one side and bend it down on the other side, then turn it 90 degrees. So we're going to do this 4 times and do the same thing, stretch it, and look at that stretch. It's starting to already kind of get nice and fluffy in there. We'll turn it again. Keep doing the same thing and give it a nice stretch. Just like it feels nice to stretch in the morning, at least for me. Let's give this nice loaf a good stretch before we let it rest for another 15 minutes. Sometimes I just like to pull it from the bottom too, in case it just kind of clumps to my hand. But here we go, get all the pieces off my fingers, and we'll wait another 15 minutes for stretch number 2. It's been 15 minutes, so let's do stretch number 2, which means we're just basically doing the exact same thing we did in stretch number 1. We're going to stretch it real high, and then we'll turn it and do the same thing 4 times again. We're going to do 4 different folds, stretch and folds, and look at that getting nice and stretchy. It's kind of fun seeing it and seeing how long I can make it. And I'll just pull it from the bottom, pull it from the top, and we'll fold it over itself. And one last time. And then after this, we're not going to touch it for 8 to 10 hours. I like to do it at night so that in the morning I just come back, I open up the towel and stretch it one more time and bake it in the oven. So here we go. We'll just cover it with our towel again and leave it for our time. Okay, for us, it is morning. Look at this. It looks pretty. It's kind of puffed up a little bit. And here is stretch number 3, our last one. And this time we're going to pull it up from the middle. And look how stretchy it is. And that's okay if it doesn't come out, because we're going to do this 4 times also. And we're going to stretch it. And look at that. Oh, stretch. Stretch that guy out. Oh, it looks so great. And we'll bend it and leave it, and we'll do this 4 times as well. And remember, you always want to have wet hands, otherwise it's going to get super sticky on your hands. And if you have to pull it on the side, that's okay too. It turns out just fine. I might actually experiment and see if you can just do it 2 times, and if it turns out just fine. But I will just shape this little guy into a ball and let it sit while I heat up the oven to 500 degrees and put the cast iron pan in there so that it heats up. But I will oil it a little bit beforehand to make sure that nothing sticks, although I haven't had a problem, but just in case. I don't want my bread to be completely stuck to the pan. That would be no fun. So if you want a cool design on the top, now's the time to put that slice in there with an oiled knife. I've found that my way, it doesn't really matter because it just gets squished on the top. It gets as tall as it can in the little cast iron pan that I have. So if you have a Dutch oven, I think it would work great if you have a sliced one. So here I go. I'm going to try not to mess up the shape, but I am dropping it into the cast iron pan that I am working with. And, oh, don't forget those little bits and pieces. Okay, and then my hack method is I'm going to put the silicone baking sheet on top and then the baking pan on top so that the steam doesn't escape, and I want it to get that nice crust. So here we go. I'm going to put this whole thing back into the oven, 500 degrees. I'll set it for 20 minutes, and then I'll come back and check to take off the top and let it cook some more. And there it is. It's in there. It's in the middle rack. Okay, it's been 25 minutes total because I took off the top and cooked it for another 5 minutes, and look how beautiful this looks. And like I said before, because the top is not as big as a Dutch oven, my top gets a little smushy, but this is what I'm working with, and it still comes out delicious. Look how toasty it looks, nice and brown, and the chia seeds poking out. Let's slice into it. Let me show you how fluffy it looks inside. Oh, look at that steam and the air bowls. Oh, it looks so good. Let's just take a sample and try not to burn our fingers off. I want to make avocado toast with the sourdough today, and I like it a little bit spicy, not too much, but I'm just going to take a little bit of the chili garlic oil. Oops. And spread that on the bottom. And then I'm just going to take a chunk of avocado and mash it up right on top. And I like it with a lot of avocado. I love avocado. I could just eat it by itself too, but it's so good. And let's not miss any of these chili pieces or, oh yeah, that bread piece. Let's just get everything on there and let's try this out. So good. Look at that little chili flake. Oh, so good.
Well, that's it. It's pretty easy, pretty hands off. Just a few times that you have to mix it in between or stretch it in between. But I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. And of course, comment and let us know if you do. See you next time.